Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morris Man. As always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. Today I'm going to, entitle this, perhaps, maybe I entitled something different. One of the dumbest comments I've ever heard, part 2. Because in part 1, every now and then I get people, because I did a video on self-taught. Don't do it. You don't know what you don't know. So how can you do what you need to do? And I discourage anybody that's trying to do that self-taught bullshit. You know, initially, right out the gate, you might try to do it yourself, but at some point in time, go get lessons. Because I forgot to mention this point, and this is a very important point. Because, again, I get people that want to try to defend the fact that they're self-taught. I'm doing okay. You think so? You're the only one. Because here's something that you can't get around as far as being self-taught. The theory of music. Music is a language like any other language. Whether you speak in English, you speak in China or Japanese, you speak an African dialect. I had a gentleman that I worked with in corporate America for about 10 years. He was a great guy. His name was Pete. Shout out to Pete. Pete is a Filipino. And we would talk about our cultures. That's what I like about working around multi-races, because you get a chance firsthand to talk to people about their culture. You know, one of the first conversations I had with a gentleman that was born and raised in Africa, because we had these conferences, and they sat at our table, and I was excited about just talking to a brother from another country. And one thing that he mentioned to us, or asked me, he said, you know, in his accent, he said, "Tell me, my friend, why do you guys put sugar on everything you eat here?" You know, like, because they want to make money at the risk of damaging our health, you know. Because he said they don't put sugar on everything. They don't really put sugar on just about hardly anything. You know, that's why I'm sitting here as a testament of a diabetic, because of the diet that we have in this country. And by the time you're old enough to realize the truth and the lies that they've told you, the damage has been done. You know, I've changed my diet. I've lost weight. I exercise now, and I did lower my A1C without any metaphor and any other drugs. You know, but as far as, again, it's a language. And music is interesting because it's the only form of communication that's universal. Meaning that I got sheet music here in the United States. I jump on a plane and go to China, and I jam with, you know, people from that country, and we reading sheet music. The same sheet music, they were taught to read the same notation, so it's no gap in translation, you know, like it is in dialect. Because, again, my friend Pete, and that's why I mentioned him. Pete told me that in his country, his home country, the Philippines, there are multiple dialects in one city or country. You know, multiple dialects. I'm like, wow. He said, yeah. You know, so if you're self-taught, at some point in time, you want to be able to write down your ideas and start writing songs. How the fuck are you going to do that if you can't read music or write notation? You go pass to somebody else. Could you help me with this? And the chords that you're probably using not even the right chords, or it's not a chord. It's a fragment of chords. Because I remember those days before I learned how to read and know theory, I was making up chords, and it sounded like it. And I remember many years ago, I played in the band, and I was just a hired hand. You know, I came in as a lead guitar player, but I wanted to be the chord guy, you know, but there was already a chord guy, and I could tell that he didn't know theory. The chords he was playing were fragmented. They were not straight out this chord or that chord, because it was either missing a note or two or too many notes. And I remember after our first session, the bass player put me to the side and said, "Man, you much better player than that dude." I'm like, "Thanks," you know, because he said, and he said, "The chords that you're playing sound right. His don't." I'm like, "Yeah, because they're not right." You know, he made it up, you know. So that's why it's not a good idea to try to create another fragmented language when you got a language that works. You just need to learn it. So stop being lazy and pay somebody and learn it, you know. Nothing holding you back but you. It's not that you don't have access to this information. You just decide that you're good enough by yourself, teaching yourself, and you don't know what you don't know. And you have taught yourself, which is understandable. You know, again, you don't know what you don't know. So how can you teach yourself everything? Because the statement, there was a lot of statements in that statement that got made, but the first line was just ridiculous. Nowadays, artists want their musicians self-taught. Really? That makes no sense. Why would a Beyonce want a guitar player that don't know an F major chord? and 2 or 3 different inversions, or we playing in the key of G. He can't do that because he don't know. So why would you think an artist would want somebody that's subpar? It's just insane. So the purpose of this video and the other video is, young folks, go do it the right way. Don't listen to these guys that don't know what they're talking about. Can't play, can't read. They do okay with what they've learned by themselves on their own. But guess what? If you go get formal lessons on top of what you already know how to do, you'll be much better. Trust me, you'll be much better. But like I said, every now and then I get people that want to try to justify this. You can't justify it. Either you can do it or you can't. There is no in between. Either you can read this chart here or you can't. When you go to a professional recording studio with producers and music arrangers, here's your part, dude. Go to the bass player. This is what I want you to play. The drummer. This is what I want you to play. The horn section. This is what I want you to play. They give you sheet music. Not your friend's basement studio. I'm talking about a recording studio that have had multi-platinum artists in it. Those are 2 different animals. You can get pretty good sound out of a home studio, but it don't compare to what you can get from a professional, up and running recording studio with professional musicians, professional engineers, professional music arrangers, professional singers. It's a whole different animal. And I think that other guy was speaking from the basement studio aspect, because it's obvious he's never been to a full-fledged studio. He claimed that he's worked with Berklee musicians and couldn't get them, struggled with them. And you know why you struggle with them? Because you couldn't speak their language. It's not that they struggle with you, you struggle with them. But you thought they were struggling with you. Or you struggling with them. That's how misinformed this guy was. And I, to be honest, I don't even believe that, because if you are self-taught, most likely you're not going to be rubbing noses with the people that come from Berklee. That's just like somebody living in the projects hanging out with millionaires. How often and how common is that? It's almost 0. So you're not going to be playing or hanging out with those caliber players if you self-taught, unless you just happen to know somebody that went there, and you might have crossed their paths and passing, hey, how you doing? I'm okay, how you doing? That's about it. You're not working with them kind of caliber people. They would have no reason to work with you. You would hold them up. While they sitting there reading sheet music from the music arranger that gave them that, you sitting there looking stupid because you can't read it. And you think you're going to try to improvise your way through this. That's not what they're paying you for. They losing money waiting on you because you can't do this. And the other musicians losing money because they probably got another gig in a couple of hours and they still here. So I'm going to leave you guys again with this. Do not do something that you can't do. Do not attempt to teach yourself anything that you can't teach yourself. Of course, there are some things that you can teach yourself. You can get on the bicycle and keep riding and falling off till you get it right. You can do that. You don't really need no one's assistance. It's easier if you do have assistance, but that's not necessarily mandatory. But in some cases, it's mandatory, because you can't go in and cut somebody's head open and perform surgery if you didn't go to college, you didn't go 8 years of med school, or maybe even some more additional training, then pass the bar, then get a residency, study under another doctor for about a year or 2, and then you're ready. That's probably about what? That's about 14 years or 15 years of pursuing that particular career. About 15 years in that you got to put in before you get started. But I'm going to leave you guys with that. Again, go pay somebody. Stop sitting on the internet and watching my fingers and these other dudes' fingers that are professionals. We went and got formal training. That's how we are able to do what we do. We didn't get to where we at by just watching some dude's fingers. Now, there are some people out there that know theory, that are friends of yours. And you reach out to them and say, hey, I want to play guitar too. Sit down and pull up a chair and pay that man. I'm sure he can help you. He can help you get there. But just by yourself, I could do this. Ain't nothing wrong with self-taught. or we do okay, yeah, on a small level. But at some time you want to graduate to a bigger level. Choice is yours. Till next time, take care.